Today I'm going to show you my squat warm-up routine that takes no longer than 15 minutes.
Get up and get down, get up and get down.
A good squat warm-up routine is something that primes your body to perform as well as possible and decreases your risk of injury. Today what we're gonna do is take you through Sam's squat warm-up routine that we've sort of collaborated on and found what's right for his body, and hopefully we'll give you some ideas of things that you can implement to make a quick, efficient, and effective warm-up for your own squat day as well. Now, one thing Sam likes to do is start off with some single leg squats. This is called a touchdown. Now, he's all the way up on about a 14-inch high box, but you can do this with as little as one plate, so 2 to 3 inches off the ground. The idea with the single leg squat, I'm gonna have Sam start going through these, is to prime single leg stability. And the important reason that we're going through this is that single leg squats expose small imbalances in coordination, in balance, and mobility that often go unnoticed with a regular double leg squat. What he's gonna do is start off with a hinge and then slowly squat down, tap the heel to the ground, and come back up. We're not stepping off the box, so it's not a lateral step down, but he's staying with his body weight through his entire stance leg the entire time. If this is something where you're struggling with maybe knee pain at the start, you can break it up into 2 different movements. So at the start, he's gonna hinge and then pause. Right there. Now in this position, you should feel the glute working really well in your stance leg, then proceed with the rest of the squat, tap down and back up. And again, if you're feeling a little bit of achiness in the knee, you can make it a little bit more hip dominant. So more hip back, more chest forward, almost start off in more of a hinge position like an RDL at the first section, and then proceed down with the rest of your squat. Something like this, quick and easy, 2 sets of 10 to 15 reps on each side. A couple other tips that can be really helpful if we look from the front side, we wanna make sure that that knee is directly in line with the lower body, making sure that we're priming that coordination to not allow that excessive knee cave. And oftentimes people who are dealing with problems in knee cave or problems in foot stability, you'll see it in this come out, especially one side versus the other. Okay, you wanna try that other side? So again, stable foot, making sure that we're not too far forward on the toes or too far back onto the heels. You can tell this side's a little bit harder for Sam. And that's the great thing with the single leg squat, is that it's exposing side to side differences and allowing you to then work on them to make as much symmetry between the 2 legs as possible before we start loading the double leg version. Yep, you can feel the ankle. So again, this is a great way too to expose that ankle issue so we could clear it up also before the squat. So we'll come back to that. Let's do your next step, which is the banded joint mobilization. So we got the band right there. So the banded joint mobilization, you need to get that up real high into the hip, and you need to get a lot of pressure on this. Now what he's gonna do is get out into a lunge position and just sort of freestyle while you're out here. The idea is that we're trying to open up the hip joint as much as possible. Everyone's gonna be a little bit different with where they feel stiffness for this specific motion. What I like to do is push the knee in across the body. And what he's doing right here is priming hip internal rotation. The band is distracting the hip laterally, and that's allowing you to get a little bit more freedom of movement within the hip joint. Internal rotation allows you to be able to set your feet without a really excessive toe out position. So he's driving in. If the band is in the right position and with the right amount of tension, this will not bring out a pinch sensation in the front of the hip. So if he did this internal rotation drive and found that it was pinching in the front of the hip, he would need more tension. Something I also like to do is take a couple deep breaths in and out when you push into that internally rotated position. Try to really relax the hips, and you should feel almost like a gapping or opening type sensation in the lateral hip as well. So he's going back and forth, and then when you go out to the side, squeeze your glute really hard. So that's priming the active external rotation that those glutes provide to center the hip joint and just put the body in the best mechanical position overall. So again, that took no more than 2 minutes, and then he's gonna switch sides. Now you can see right here from the side view, he's getting more of that posterior lateral pull. Depending on the person and if they're dealing with a hip impingement, they may need a little bit more lateral, a little bit more posterior, but a posterior and a lateral pull is going to be usually the most effective way at opening that hip. So this is an amazing hip opener rather than an anterior pull. So the way in which the joint works is that when you go into a deeper hip flexed position, that femur is going to be drifting forwards sometimes inappropriately and smashing the front side of the hip socket, and that's that hip impingement. So the way in which we enhance that motion is by pulling the hip joint more posterior and lateral to sort of open it up. So we have the passive internal, relax for a second, opening the hip, externally rotating, squeezing the glute, back and forth 10 times or so, 10 to 15 times. Okay. Then I know you like to do the kettlebell weight shift next. So I'll let you walk people through in that part of it, what you like to do.
Okay, so the cue that we had set up is pretty much grab the kettlebell and let it drop. And the first thing I want to do is I want to squeeze my glutes, externally rotate my leg, and I'm just going to drive in. So you are going to be feeling a lot of stretch in your in the groin area. Your glutes are going to be fired up also because you're flexing it and just clearing any sort of restriction that you might have on this side. And for me, my hip was shifting a lot just because we were running out of room. So doing this kind of just allows me to clear up any sort of restriction that we have in the groin space area. So grab the kettlebell, drop it down to the hips, and we're gonna drive. Pause for a second, come back, repeat.
And I think the key aspect for this is like what you mentioned is squeeze that glute first, externally rotate actively, and then shift into it. Now, the idea again is you're opening the hip, you're gonna bring out a pretty good stretch in the groin. If this is bringing out a pinch sensation in the front of the hip, you can play around with the position of your foot. You don't always have to be extremely open. You can sort of play around with the position that feels most optimal. Some people need a little bit more of an angled version of this. But again, notice he's not holding this stretch for a long time. The idea during a squat warm-up is to go through dynamic movements with very, very small stretches if you need any at all. Mostly we just want to move through those ranges of motion to improve our mobility, but not necessarily get a long static stretch. Very long static stretching of upwards of 30 seconds to a minute can sometimes decrease your body's ability to create power and force out of those muscles directly after. So when it comes to squatting, our goal is to improve our performance, our force production, our strength output. We don't want to usually do very long static stretches. Now, there will be some people that will benefit more so from a long static stretch so they can get into better technical positions. But again, that's going to be per the individual. Most people are going to require just a good dynamic warm-up to move through very specific ranges, open their body up, and then with the loading that you're doing with the squat of, again, moving through those full ranges, you're gonna open up your body and have the best technical performance as well without the need of any static stretches that could take away from your strength output.
If you do this right, your glutes should be on fire.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so that was the third thing. Now, you did mention real quick that your ankle on the right side, you felt a little pinch in the front. Yeah. So again, this may not be every single time, but the one thing I like to do is just really teach people your squat warm-up. You should almost have a toolbox set aside of different exercises that you can then pick and choose from when you need them. You shouldn't have to always do the exact same ones for specific mobility limitations. If you're going about things correctly, sometimes you won't need those and it's just more of a waste of time. But you could feel with the single leg squat first that you had a little bit of that blockage on the right side. So this is a great check to do every single time to assess yourself and go, okay, I need this ankle mobility drill to make sure that I'm going through my full ranges then with my squat. Check it first before then you load it. So let's go through a banded joint mobilization real quick on that side, on that ankle. And I know you remember those from PT time. I'll help you get a little bit of tension on that. So that foot's gonna go up, okay? So with the banded joint mobilization, that band is on the top of the talus bone underneath the big ankle bones. If you see someone doing a banded joint mobilization and the band is on the lower shin above the ankle bones, it is not doing what it needs to do. The idea is that we are pulling down, moving the talus backwards while the tibia moves forward over the foot. Does that take away that pinch? There you go. So that's how you know also that there is the band in the right position with enough tension. If he drove that knee forward and he still felt that pinch sensation, we need more tension. So sometimes you may need a buddy at the gym to help you position this. The elevated box allows us again to get the band pulling in the right direction, which is down and back on the top of the tibia. Also from the side view or from the front view, Evan, if you can move over, notice that he's driving his knee over his lateral part of his foot. So we're making sure that the tibia is aligned appropriately in the same way that we want to see mechanic-wise in the bottom of the deep squat. I'm not trying to drive his knee inwards because that's not the mechanics that we want to see whenever we're squatting. Knee stacked directly above the foot. So that stacked joint alignment is what we're trying to optimize the mobility with this. So something like this, 10, 15 reps, and then I would just have him do one more quick check with his single leg squat, see if that feels any better after.
And yeah, one thing that I want to mention, like before we started working together, also, like I was that guy that normally would have the band a little bit too high, and I don't feel the impact right away. And just by strapping that lower alone, I already feel, oh, that's where it's supposed to be.
Smallest little details like that can make the biggest difference. Okay, so again, 10, 15 seconds.
Test and retest, right?
Test and retest. There we go. So let's see how that feels on that side. There you go. So again, the single leg squat is an excellent way to warm up for your double regular traditional back squat, front squat, overhead squat, because it allows you to check and see whether or not you have a side-to-side difference in imbalance that you need to address before you start loading the body bilaterally with more load. Okay, so then we are done with that. Now the last thing you usually do is what?
So the last thing I typically do is sled drags. So a lot of gyms, I mean, you don't have the access to having like open field or sled drag. So what I typically use is a treadmill and just walk backwards. I start 2 sets about a minute long. And usually by the time I'm done, my quads, my knee should feel a decent amount of tension. Which I mean, with a stretch and with that, I'm ready to
there you go.
like a good leg session. So
there we go. Okay, so we've gone through all that. Then at that time, we would get to the barbell for your first set of warm-ups. So today we have gone through touchdown, single leg squats as the first thing, 2 sets of 10 to 15 reps. And again, he was up onto a 12 to 14 inch high box. You can start with as little as a plate, something like this, engage the hips back, tap down and back up. Then we went and opened up the hips with the banded joint mobilization. Again, prying open and back, forward and back, driving into internal and then external rotation. Okay, 10, 15 reps on each side. We then went and did the kettlebell weight shift, squeezing the glute, open the hips, shifting over and back again. 10 reps or so. You can hold that for 3 to 5 seconds if you need to. But again, we're trying to move dynamically, not do any long static stretches. Because we felt the front of the ankle on the touchdowns on one side, again, there's that imbalance that we want to address before we start loading bilaterally. We address that with the banded joint mobilization. If this was the gym where he's usually training, he likes to do some posterior sled drags or a backward walk on the treadmill. Again, a couple sets for a minute, get the body warmed up, ready to go. Less than 15 minutes. That's an excellent warm up, and hopefully that can give you some ideas for things that you can implement within your own training to maximize, again, your performance and decrease your risk of injury. So,
yeah, I mean, one thing the last thing I'll touch upon is this might look intimidating a lot of times, and you can tell you when you first started, like when I had my knee, I mean, I couldn't even do this, like, well, yeah, that hurts. So we definitely moved from that to that. I mean, so we start small, if you can do that, and progressively work your way there. So, I mean, yeah, it might look intimidating, it looks, very hard, but again, it's all about progression.
Exactly. Yeah, I think when Sam, when you first came to me with knee pain, that was what, last summer?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the first day, I think we did like a 2 to 4 inch box touchdown.
Yeah, that's it.
And literally within, 2 months,
Yeah.
you are all the way up to like an 18-inch high box. So
Yeah.
progression is possible, but again, I can't stress enough, single leg squatting does not mean pistol squatting. I don't need you, unless you are a CrossFitter, to bust out a full pistol, but I do need you to do a single leg squat. And the ability to single leg squat has so much more carryover to functionality and clearing up imbalances than you could ever imagine. And it will be the one fundamental thing that will allow this to be strong for the rest of your life. So doing this will not maximize and give you a 500-pound squat, but doing this will allow whatever squat you do have to stay strong for a long time. That's why we call this a longevity exercise. So that's it for today's squat warm-up. I hope that gave you guys some excellent ideas that you can implement within your own training. Let me know if you have any questions. Be sure to go follow Sam on YouTube. I'll put his link in the bottom of this video description. And until next time, guys, happy squatting.
They say that energy flows where attention goes, so I pay no mind. Why waste my time with all these negative cats scratching? So caught up in their egos, these people have lost.